you stop that lacking, you achieve here nirvana, sometimes nibbana, okay, which is kind of like moksha. Sometimes moksha and nirvana are used interchangeably in Buddhism. And there's nirvana in Jainism and Buddhism. We think of nirvana as, oh, this pleasant experience, right? That's the way it's often used in American thinking. It was like nirvana. Nirvana is enlightenment in the sense of it is escaping samsara. That is what nirvana is. Well, how do we escape samsara? By doing this. This is the way out of the cycle of rebirth. The Arya-Stanga Marga. And realizing this conclusion about there's suffering in the world, like we're all suffering, and the suffering comes from desire. Realizing that, in fact, that itself is part, recognizing that is part of the Arya-Stanga Marga. Do that, we'll get outside of the cycle of samsara. That's what we want, right? That's what we want to do. To get outside of the cycle here. And here, let me also go ahead and explain in samsara too. Here, what we're going to need to realize is how karma works in Buddhism. So, it's still related to our actions. But here, Buddhism, we accumulate karma. And karma is what, it's not a stuff, it's not a physical thing like it is in Jainism. But it directs our samsara. It's not quite like it is in Hinduism either. Where in Hinduism, karma is you did your dharma, all right, you're going to become more conscious. Your actions have direct karmic consequences. Your actions have direct consequences. What does that mean? Your willed actions. So what you choose to do, and not did I follow my dharma? What you choose to do is what affects karma, what you choose to do. So you did things as a child, a really young kid. Did you choose those things when you were young? No, then you're not responsible for them. Karma is only what you choose to do, the things that you choose. How are those things affected by the following elements? I've got them up here. These are the three poisons. So if the actions that you choose, your willed actions, those are called chittana. Okay, your willed actions, the things that you choose, if they are tainted by this stuff, you are stuck in samsara. If they're untainted by these things, these elements, and I'll explain what they are in a moment, then you're on the way to achieving good karma and getting outside of the cycle of rebirth and samsara. So what are these things? So let's talk about what they are, then we'll talk about, like, well, how do we get rid of them then? Raga. And this can be translated, now in English, these are all different flavors. And by that I mean, like, you see, like some of these seem more intense than the others. It can be translated as attachment, greed, or lust. And in English, at least to me, maybe I'm mistaken here, to me those all seem very different. But they're related in the sense of, think of like a child. You ever seen children argue over a toy? What's a child's favorite word when they do that? Mine. Yep. Mine! That is the feeling here. Now we do this as adults as well. Okay? Even like, so lust in the sense of like I want to have this person as a sexual object. I want them to be mine, okay, as an object of desire. Maybe it is your significant other, and you see they are mine. They're mine. That's that. Okay, they're mine. Okay, that possessiveness. It might be greed. That stuff is mine. I want more. I deserve it. It's mine. Okay, and really, we can't think of ourselves without it, whatever it is. I'm talking about it. I just mentioned it in sexual terms, but it need not be sexual. That stuff is mine. I own this. I'm tethered to it. I'm connected to it. If you have that attitude, you're going to be stuck here in samsara for a while. But it could be benign as well. Like, well, that stuff's just really important to me. If you're attached to something, that's the same experience. It might be less intense here, but it's the same thing. Be attached to nothing. Because if you're attached, really, attachment is you loving something. You like something too much. And really, it's thinking about, if you can't let something go, really what you can't let go is you. if your identity is in the things that you have or the things that you even want to possess. That's gotta go. Dvesha. The second poison. Now that's not desiring in the sense of I want that or that's mine, but that's pretty straightforward. Hatred. Now this need not be hatred that culminates in actual physical violence. Have you ever hated someone? Now I don't mean like someone made you angry, that's different. Have you ever been infuriated with another human being? Rightly or wrong, if you have that hatred, whether justified or not, your action is tainted. If you let yourself hate, it's much easier, you're more likely to hate again. If you let yourself get attached to one thing, you're more likely to get attached to other things. It produces habits. Third poison. Moha. Delusion, confusion, ignorance. Now, the first one I said, really, there's this notion of that's mine. The second one, there's this notion of I hate. The third one here, it's the notion of what we think. So, anytime we have a point of view, we go with the default position. I have my point of view. I'm just interpreting the world as it is. I'm looking at things. Have you ever had an argument with somebody about something, whatever it is? What do you think about your own view? It's right, exactly. We think I'm right. We're in love with the notion of being right, and we think in the moment we're always right, even when we have I don't know. You might not think that way when you're doing a test. I don't know if I'm right here. At least in terms of our own positions, we definitely think ourselves as right. The problem is we're often not right, but we think it, and that happens because of that we're in love with ignorance, whether we think so or not. But that notion of I'm right, and especially that somehow calcifies more when one is really wrong. But if you perform a willed action, and any of this stuff is involved, that's going to result in bad karma. And what bad karma means is that you haven't had enough, you haven't reached escape velocity to escape samsara. So in order to escape samsara, to achieve nirvana, to get out of the cycle of rebirth, again, it's not in Buddhism, it's not to go back to Brahman. There's no Brahman. Like Jainism, there is no Brahman here. There's no God as such. But in order to get out of this, you need to scoop all this stuff out of your actions. Well, how do I do that? How do I get rid of attachment and lust and greed and hatred and confusion and ignorance? By that Eightfold Path, the Arya Stanga Marga. These are the 8 notions that you want to subscribe to. So this is also, the Noble Eightfold Path is step 4 of the Jawari Arya Satyani. So let's review that again real quick too. So what are the Jawari Arya Satyani, the 4 noble truths? A lot of noble stuff going on. Step 1, dukkha is a thing. I'm going to say dukkha exists. That's not exactly accurate, but there's suffering. Okay? Dukkha is caused by Trishna. Okay? Trishna causes dukkha. Okay? That's noble truth number 2. Okay, so there's suffering. Suffering comes from desire. There's narata. Narata is, hey, you get rid of the desire, you get rid of the suffering. Okay, and then 4, well, how do you do that? Arya Stanga Marga. Noble Eightfold Path is how you do it. And so the Noble Eightfold Path is also how you get rid of those poisons as well. So what's the Noble Eightfold Path then? These 8 things. You'll notice each one of these starts with the adjective samyak. So samyak means true or correct, is what samyak means. So what? Samyak drishti is that first one. Right view. So correct view. So this is Eightfold Path number 1. You need to have the correct view. Well, correct view of what? Correct view of karma. You need to know. So the first step to getting rid of this desire is you need to know your actions have consequences. Karmic consequences. I don't just mean that in something like everything has consequences, like if you do something now, you're going to pay for it later. Yeah, but in the sense of relating to karma. Your willed actions matter. Things that you didn't volunteer, things that you didn't choose. If you were forced to do something, you're not responsible for that. So you're not responsible for what's been given to you. Or something that's outside of your purview. You didn't ask, for example, even in this life, you didn't ask what body to be born into, so you're not responsible for what it is. There's no moral essence there. But you are responsible for the actions that you choose to do. That's thing number one. So you can't blame anybody else for the actions that you choose to do. Well, I grew up in this kind of environment. No. You're responsible for the actions that you choose to do. The ones that you choose, that's you. It's not on anybody else, that's on you. That's step one. Step two. The second thing. Samyak samkalpa. Well, mainly it means of doing the following two things, which are really not doing. Ahimsa, which we saw in Jainism already, that's the avoidance of harm. Now, it's not to the same degree as it is in Jainism. Remember, in Jainism, there's extreme ahimsa. I won't harm anything at all whatsoever, to the point where, like, even some Jains will starve themselves to death so they don't kill anything at the end of their life. It's a practice in Jainism. So, yeah.
Isn't that why a lot of people are vegetarian?
Yes, that's exactly right. So I'm going to so here, and some Jains are this way too. So we have different levels of Jain belief too. But some Jains are, especially of the Digambara sect, are sort of like they won't own clothes at all because even the cotton had to be killed for that, right? So here the Buddhists, sure, I'll be a vegetarian because I'm not going to cause harm to it. Especially the more conscious something is, the less I want to cause harm to it. That's true in Hinduism as well. Some forms, less extreme forms of Jainism, and also in Buddhism. A lot of vegetarianism because an animal, yeah, sure, a plant is a living thing too, and so it's causing harm when you cultivate it, but an animal's more conscious. They can feel pain. So we're not gonna slaughter animals for that reason. So that's something that's common in India. Yeah, that's why you see that in Buddhism as well. And just avoidance of harm. And also, you'll see a lot of this in Buddhism, a lot of being at peace with things. And also in Jainism, this was true. Harm does not just mean physical violence. The way you say something can be harmful. Okay. So that'll come again when we talk about right speech in a little bit as well. But so, ahimsa. We'll just say, generally speaking, do whatever you can to go in peace. All right? To not go around causing harm. Not to be malevolent in some kind of way. Or maleficent, I should say. Don't go around doing bad things. Okay, neither should you engage in ayabada, which is ill will. Don't even think bad things. There's an avoidance of don't do harm, but don't think bad thoughts either, because that will lead to that poison of the mind. Right? So don't just think, you know what? Have we ever done this thing before where I know I used to work customer service. Okay? Yeah, and I remember the experience of having to smile at people who were treating you like trash. Has anyone had this experience before? It's, yeah, hi, how are you doing today? Okay, great, yeah, Right, that kind of thing. And you're smiling, and you're having to be polite, and you're like, I don't want to be polite right now. I want to, this person made me, and you're just really, like, you're consumed with, how dare they. Don't even think the bad thoughts. You might be fulfilling yourself. You might be still outwardly doing the right thing in spite of having some inward thoughts that are despicable. Don't even do that. Don't even think ill will, because that's going to build up. Okay. Doing this, that is avoiding harm and avoiding ill will, generates good karma. And that will lead you to the proper beliefs about the following. You'll come to these realizations about the world with the right intention. So here's what you need to know. And so when we zoom in to the second one, we get this. This is called the Chelaksana. 3 things. One we've already talked about. But if you really want to say it like the way the world is, there's 3 things you need to know. Dukkha, anicca, and anattama. So when you're looking at the world correctly, that is, you're avoiding harm and you're avoiding ill will, you'll recognize these 3 things about the world. 1, dukkha, And that's already number one of the chapter. I guess yeah. There's pain everywhere. This world, frankly, is pretty terrible. There's suffering, there's lacking all around. We're all experiencing it. No one has avoided it. And so that's the first thing you'll realize. Unlike, and so Buddha would say that when I was the prince, and when we have luxury, we often think that pain does not exist. And we have a hard time understanding the pain of others. Anitya. Nothing is permanent. Here you go. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing. Not you. Not object. I don't care what they say about the diamonds lasting forever. Nothing lasts forever. So just recognize this. Everything's. It reminds me of some old ancient Greek philosophy too. Nothing lasts forever. Everything is impermanent. Nothing will ultimately last forever. Not you. You're not going to be here forever. Your friends are not going to be here forever. Maybe even 100 years from now you'll still be here. Fast forward 1,000,000 years, you're not going to be here. And no one will remember you. 1,000,000 years from now. It's just not going to happen. That's the second thing that you realize. Nothing is permanent. Everything changes. Everything goes away. And the third notion is the one that's very controversial to the Hindus. Anatman. Well, that sounds kind of like a term that we talked about in Hinduism. So, I am what in Hinduism? I'm Brahman for sure, and as an instance of Brahman, I am Atman. I'm an individual self. And that's like a jiva in Jainism. Like, so I'm a conscious person. And Atman is even the Sanskrit word for soul. Right? So what would Anatman mean? Non-soul. It's like us when we put a negative prefix on the word. That's what it is. It means non-soul. Anatman. Not a self. Not a soul. What does that mean? And this seems counterintuitive with some other things too. Because there's samsara, right? There's a cycle of rebirth. We keep coming back. There's really no we to speak of. That's what anatman means. All that stuff about, you go back to those poisons. Okay, we get attached to things, right? I want this. I want that. I'm angry. I'm right. The problem is there is no I. What are you? What are you? Now we think from our own perspective, like we're the main character in our own universe, right? Me. What are you? A thing. So what does that mean?
You just exist.
Yeah, you just exist. Well, the table's a thing too, right? So yeah, well, I exist. And actually, you exist. That's what you said that. I'm a thing. I exist just as much as the table exists. But the table is not of the delusion that it's right. We conscious beings are. But that's all we are. We are just things. Just stuff. And stuff is impermanent anyway. So, really, there's an illusion that there's a me. There is no self. And so we're like, no, I need to worry about my stuff. There is no you. Sure, there is something there that's experiencing phenomenon. You're seeing stuff around you. You're hearing stuff. You're thinking. Or something is thinking. There really is no you. And that's where a lot of the suffering comes from, is from thinking, I'm a me, and I am entitled to this. And that's where that attachment, that lust, that greed, that hatred, that confusion, that ignorance comes from, is thinking there is a you and that you matter. As a you. Now, he's not saying other people don't matter. In fact, Buddha will go out of his way to say we should care for other people. But the problem lies is starting from a delusion that there is a me. Think a little less about yourself. There is no self. Stop. So that's something that we ought to realize. And that's part of the right intention. Realize there is no you. Now wait a minute. There is no me. How do I keep coming back in the cycle of samsara? Those two things do seem at odds. But there's no ultimate you. There's no soul that matters. There's the real me. There's no real you because there's no you. There's an illusion of self, which you're way too wrapped up in. But most of our problems come from thinking there is a me and that I need to do this stuff for me. Don't just become less selfish. Realize that you're not really a self. And that's a conclusion from right intention. Third of our 8. And the Arya Marga. Right speech. Samyak walk. Walk like vocal. So, what are things you shouldn't do? Lying, division, abuse, and idle speech. Stop it. So let's make sure we clear. Deception. Now this is somewhat true in Jainism as well. Deception is harm. Now Jainism will go to the point where deception is violence. Okay, so there's a more extreme take on it. So in Buddhism, when you lie, when you tell a lie, what are you doing? You're causing harm. The truth itself. And also, when we lie, most of the time it's really to benefit ourselves. That self that doesn't exist anyway. But you're like, yeah. Has anyone ever done this one? I'm right down the street. You haven't even left your house yet. Yeah, I'm guilty of that. Well, that doesn't seem like a big deal. It's just a little like, what? We only lie to really protect ourselves. And I think hypothetically you talk about lying to protect someone else. Okay, from harm, from unjust harm. I think that would be justifiable. But most of the time, when we lie, it's just to protect ourselves. Even when it's stupid lies. People will say, like, oh yeah, I remember that thing that you don't remember. Yeah, I was there when that thing happened. Why are you making up stories? To make yourself look good. And really to protect yourself. You lie about something, yeah, I'm fine. It's because you don't want to deal with it. And it's you again, being you. Stop lying. Division. I don't mean doing math. Division in the sense of trying to get people to fight. Not just you. Now, does anyone have families where there's somebody that just loves drama? Yeah, I've got that too. All right? And have you ever said something just to see, like, I wonder how this person will respond when I say this? Let's just play with fire a little bit. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, don't. Says Buddha, don't do that. That's at least unless you want to keep doing that, you want to keep coming back. Stop that. All right? Stop intentionally being divisive. Don't do it. Abuse. Stuff that is obviously harmful. Okay, you're a terrible person. We know it when we see it. And that's why I said this last time with regard to Jainism as well. But I believe this to be true. I've heard the expression, sticks and stones, and you probably have too, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. Whoever said that is an idiot. Words harm. I don't mean in some like magic, all right, like I'm casting a spell. All right, pain, and you experience pain. But in the sense of when someone says something abusive, even if it's only words, they don't lay a finger on you, never do. Words can harm. Period. And they do. And Buddha says, don't abuse in your speech. Don't be cruel to people. That affects it. And in fact, you say something abusive enough, that can result in all kinds of stressors, depression, which can cause physical harm in someone else. Not directly. I don't mean like, oh, your femur cracks, and that happens. But if you say something abusive to somebody, it could lead to physical harm later in them. So don't do it. Idle speech. Well, idle speech. No, don't talk about stupid stuff, especially like gossip. Don't do it. Stuff that's not benefiting anybody. Oh, did you hear that so-and-so did this? Stop it. You're not benefiting anybody. In fact, you're probably causing harm by spreading nonsense. Stop it. If you want to achieve nirvana, this is what you'll do. If you get out of the cycle of samsara, you got to get your speech together. So, and notice all this is really controlling oneself. We've got so far. I'm going to look at the world the right way. I'm going to have the right intention. I'm going to speak the right way. So reining it in. Yeah, not a self, because there is no self. Okay, but reining whatever this is in. 4. Right action. The word for action, like to do, is karma in Sanskrit. So that's what you see there. Samyak karmanta. Karmanta. Samyak karmanta. What does that mean? Doing the right stuff. Well, isn't all of this doing the right stuff? Yeah, but here, a lot of what we've talked about so far is inward. Like right speech. Yeah, you can talk about speech being an action, but it's different. Okay, and intention. A lot of that stuff is internal. This is outward. What stuff? kind of like ethics 101. Don't kill. Don't steal. And avoid sexual misconduct. What does sexual misconduct mean here? If adultery and fornication. So let's make sure, and we talked about, I think we talked about that before. What is adultery? Yeah, cheating where people are married. Like you're married to someone else, but you're engaging in sexual activity with some other person, and one of you is married. Someone's married, and you're not engaging in sexual activity with someone, with your spouse. That's adultery. What's fornication? That is sexual misconduct with someone who is unmarried. All right, we're like, you know what? Let's engage in sexual activity. I don't want to marry you. I'm not going to marry you, but let's do this thing. That's fornication. That's what that is. It's not just sex before marriage. That's the way I usually hear it get said. No, fornication is, I don't care about marriage at all. Like that's not on the table. Stop it. All right. So if you're married, have sex with your spouse. If you're not, don't. Okay, don't go around having sexual activity. Just don't stop it. Don't go around killing people. Don't go around stealing stuff. Just, I think we say basic human decency here. That is right action. Now there are different degrees here. Okay, well, what does that mean? I can never kill someone if I have to protect like my family or something? Maybe there's exceptions. Now, different Buddhists will have different degrees here, but yeah, just don't go around like killing people. Hey, look, there's a human being. No, don't go around killing people. Don't go around stealing stuff. Don't go around engaging in sexual misconduct. Samyak adhyua. Right livelihood. You even translate that as right living. In other words, your job matters. So, well, can I be a Buddhist? All right, I'm a Buddhist. I also happen to be an assassin. I go around like a hired assassin. I go around killing people for a living. Does that work? No. Just talking about, proper action would be, you don't go around killing people. Well, that's my job, though. No, you have to have the right job. Sometimes we think like, here I can. This is a different part of my life. You can only be doing your activities in the world that you do. You shouldn't engage in the following kinds of business: butchering, so the slaughtering of animals. But it pays. It's causing harm. Don't do it. But it's causing harm. Don't do it. Yeah, well, maybe I can get a job, making weapons. Weapons, the intrinsic design of weapons is to cause harm. Like, that's what they're for. Can I do that? So being involved, and so today that extends to, well, what about the manufacture of, ballistic missiles or something like it? Nope. Can't do that. Because weapons, what are they for? They're not for fun. They are to cause harm. That is what they're for. Alcohol. And it's not that you can't drink it. It's like don't you shouldn't be working at the distillery, because sure, you might have your own self-control when you drink it, but your money comes from people who have addictions. Now, maybe not even addictions at this point, but most of that money is coming from people who have problems. If you're making money on harm, stop it. Poison. You sell poisons. Stop it. In other words, the short version of the story here, however we want to interpret it otherwise, don't have a job, don't get involved in a career where the purpose of it is to cause harm. Now maybe you don't realize that it does. That's something different. Just be careful what you do and what you get involved in. That's what we got there. I think we can simplify it to that. Right effort. Here we come back to the mind as well. Do your best to avoid unwholesome thoughts. Now, what do I mean by unwholesome thoughts there? That does not mean just some sort of naive sexual purity or something like that. It doesn't need to just involve that. It could be, don't think about what you could do if you could beat up that person that you don't like. Don't envision bad things happening to other people. Don't even harm with like the thoughts in your mind, in your imagination. Don't do that. Because if you do that, if you entertain that even, it's just like, oh, just let me imagine what that would be like. If you can imagine it, that will infect your mind. Okay, so don't think negative thoughts. Even if it's about yourself. Because if you do that, you're going to wallow in it. So just stop it. Cut it out. Extricate it. Get rid of it. Doubts. What if I'm not good enough? Stop it. That negativity is affecting you. Just don't entertain the thought. Extricate that from your own mind. And I like this too. Restlessness. Okay? Avoid restlessness. So if you don't take care of yourself, you don't get enough sleep, things like that, it'll be very easy. And you know this too. Have you ever had not enough sleep? And then are you agitated, irritable, irascible? You're a little less. I'm sorry, I didn't sleep well. Be restful, because if you don't, it's much easier for you to be susceptible to those kinds of problems. In other words, take care of your own body as well. Sure, the mind's important, but also really get rest. That's something we see in a lot of religions too, just the notion rest is important. Yeah, sure, work's important, but you need to get enough rest. Because if you don't get enough rest, you will be agitated. And as a result of being agitated, it's very easy to hate someone just because you're tired. All right, shh, stop it. I haven't had my coffee yet. That's our existence. Like, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee. Why do you need coffee? Because you're restless. Rest is important. Right mindfulness. This notion of mindfulness is getting a little bit more popular in the West. I'm not sure if it's speaking true to Buddhist roots. What does this mean? Samyak smrti. Don't be absent-minded. How is that different from controlling my unwholesome thoughts? Don't be passive in your thoughts. Be active in your mind. So we typically think, like if we're walking to the parking lot or something, don't just take it in. Right? Oh, there's the trees and there's my car, and or I can think of people just sitting out mindlessly scrolling. Like, has anyone done that before? You're sitting down. Oh, it's before bed. I'm just going to look at my phone for like 15 minutes. 2 hours later, you're still doing this motion. And it's not because you're looking at anything interesting. We're so passive. Be active. What does that mean to be active? Look at what's going on and what your mind, what your own consciousness is doing. Be aware of everything around you. Be as fully aware as you can. And so, meditating here in Buddhism, at least here at this point, jhana, meditating is a hyper-focus on what I'm experiencing. What do I really see? What do I really hear? Don't just take it in. Say, yeah, whatever. Focus. And focus on what your senses are doing. And you'll notice it's at the ayatana. You have like this in Indian thought, in Buddhism, Buddha says you have 6 senses. Wait a minute, I thought we had 5. That's Aristotle that said that. Aristotle said we have 5 senses. Now there's an additional one here, and Buddha comes to the exact same conclusions in what sense is just +1. What you hear, what you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch, and what you think. The imagination is a sense in Buddhist thought. What you see, like stuff around you that you see, comes in. Stuff around you hear, comes in. Smells around you, come in. Taste comes in. What you touch in the world comes in, but also stuff comes in through your imagination as well. Right? Not through some kind of sense, not through some bodily organ. Maybe it's in the mind. Stuff's coming in. Stuff comes in through your imagination as well. Be mindful of what's coming in. So when you're thinking something, like, we'll let your mind wander. Don't let it wander. Control the reins. That doesn't mean that, sure, something like unwholesome things would be off limits of things that you shouldn't think about. For sure. But also, be active in what you're thinking about. Don't just let things, like, whatever, like, I want this thing and this thing. You'll get lost. And you'll also get tired, too. Don't do that. Rein it in. I'm going to think about this. I can control my own breath right now. I can feel the air moving in, and it makes you aware of your environment, what's going on around you, even things going on when you sit and stop and just think and control your thoughts. And sometimes, even in Buddhist thought, there's Om as well. So it means something different in Buddhism. Just centering one's own consciousness to be conscious. Because think about how, like, again, most of the time we're just kind of there, and we'll let our minds wander where we are, like we're watching. I mean, have you ever had that experience too? Like maybe you're watching something, and it's been a while for me. Like you're in a movie theater, and while you're into something, you kind of forget that you're in a movie theater. No, constantly know where you are. Okay, I'm here right now, standing in front of this room, and even being able to zoom out from the experience. I'm not talking about something out of body here. Just I'm on the second floor of a building right now. Here, okay, in a room that is never the right temperature, ever. Okay, parking lot's that way. What direction? You're just being aware of where you are. Okay, and we know this too. Like, have you ever like with children where they're not physically aware of what's going on? People bumping into each other. Like, yeah, there's that. And with the same kind of stuff about like what we think about, it's the same kind of thing. Be aware where you are. Don't bump into things that you shouldn't. Be careful, but also just in a mental way. That's what mindfulness is here. Samyak Smarti. And then also right concentration, which is related to this mindfulness too. Okay, this is point number 8. Stillness of mind. What does that mean? Well, sure, we already talked about being active. Don't let the passions bubble up. Okay, lest you get into the, you'll go into rage mode. So what do I mean by stillness of mind? Just don't, if you find yourself starting to panic, breathe. Put together, even keep calm in your thoughts. Even in your thoughts. Now you might think, on the outside I'm doing good, on the inside I'm really nervous, I'm really agitated, I'm not feeling good. On the inside, tone it down. If it's something too extreme is causing you to panic, control that thought. We already talked about that. And just and if you stay still in your mind, okay, empty it out if you need to. First of all, it'll help you to respond to things better. Okay, we know if we're even like people, if drivers are distracted, what are they more likely to do? Cause accidents, right? Yeah. And it doesn't have to be. I mean, we think of the external distractions. Okay, someone's putting on their makeup, someone's eating something, someone looking at the dial. Those ones are obvious. I'll also tell you things like, if you're tired, that affects you. Sure, it does. In fact, the effects of being really tired while driving are actually very similar to consuming too much alcohol and driving at the same time. But not just that. Have you ever been distracted just by stuff going on in your life while you're driving a car? I can't believe that just happened. And you're looking off and you're just thinking about, and you're distracted from where you are. It's dangerous. But it need not be those things. But also even just your everyday life, like even now just sitting in the room, not just letting your mind wander here, focusing too much on something. It's not that something random's come up. It's like, I can't believe this is going to happen. What am I going to do? Tone it down, or else you'll end up hurting yourself. And there's an ultimate sense in which that's true as well. Like this here, this is the way out of samsara. This is the conclusion of the Four Noble Truths. You want to live a life where you want to get outside of the cycle of rebirth. Do this rightly. Now, it's not going to happen in a day. And you can do this. That's enlightenment. That's nirvana. You can achieve this, and it's going to take practice. You're going to have techniques where you do this. I can't do right concentration today. And then if you have an attitude, you're like, I can't do that. That's not me. There is no you. Stop it. Because that's what we do. Sometimes we defend ourselves by saying, that's just who I am. I'm just a person that gets angry. You've decided to be a person that gets angry. You can decide to do something else. That choice is up to you. That goes back to the beginning. But you choose what you want to do. No, I'm just that kind of a person. You've selected this for yourself. You can unselect it because there is no you. Okay, so you don't have to be defined by some thing that you think just is who you are. Okay, really, the choice is yours.